Hi, I'm your host Vasco Duarte. Welcome to the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast, where we share tips and tricks from Scrum Masters around the world. Every day, we bring you inspiring answers to important questions that all Scrum Masters face day after day. Hello, everybody. Welcome to our Team Tuesday this week with Kevin Pedersen. Hi, Kevin. Welcome back.
Hi, Vasco.
So, Kevin, on Tuesdays, we talk about teams, but we always start with a resource, a book specifically. So, Kevin, share with us, what's the book that most influenced you in your career as a Scrum Master?
I'd say my favorite book that I've read so far is by Marcus Hammarberg. It's Salvation, a Bungsu Story. I don't know if you know this one, Vasco. It's how Marcus was sent to, I think it's Indonesia somewhere, to take over the management or help with the management of a hospital. And when he got there, the hospital was actually in ruins. It didn't even have a roof due to a recent storm. So they had to basically rebuild this hospital from scratch and then find out ways to actually make it profitable. And for me, the reason I like this book so much is it takes all of the Agile practices and principles, especially around lean thinking and Kanban principles, and takes it completely out of the IT domain and talks about something like a hospital, which has got nothing to do with software development at all. And yet the same principles can be carried through from what we use on a day-to-day basis. And it really opened my mind up to say, wow, there's so many possibilities out there, other domains that we wouldn't even think about or wouldn't even touch. And it just shows that even though we might focus on software development now, that is scratching the surface of what's possible.
Absolutely. The book Salvation, the Bungsu Story, how Lean and Agile saved a hospital from bankruptcy twice.
Yeah.
It's a great story. Also, first of all, a real story. So it's not fiction. It's a recollection of a real story. And also how Marcus applied many of the principles we need to apply in our own work. A brilliant story, also an uplifting story. Very, very motivating for anyone interested. I'll put the link on the show notes. And this book was actually published by us here at Oikos Office. So we are intimately linked to that book. So thanks to all the listeners who've already bought the book. And I'll put the link on the show notes for you people to find the book. Kevin, so now we turn our attention to the teams and how sometimes they become their own worst enemy. They develop these patterns or behaviors that over time kind of lead to problems. And that's really where we want to focus. So tell us the story of this team, introduce the context for us, and then walk us through how slowly that behavior or pattern developed over time that led to problems.
So I've got two kind of stories here, which are interlinked in a way, as it was the same company but different teams. And the first one is talking about self-destructive habits or behavior was around certain individuals in the team who had very big egos. And when I was assigned to the team as a coach to kind of introduce Agile concepts to them, they were very much of the standoff approach of like, we don't really need you. We're doing fine. There's nothing you can do to improve us. We already know enough. We're delivering, right? So why are you coming in with these new ideas now? And that led to some quite bad behavior and things like when we tried to set up the idea of retrospectives, half the team wouldn't turn up until half an hour late and things like this. So what that led to was the management team getting extremely frustrated with the team because I was obviously giving them, the management team, the honest feedback around what my experience with the coach and saying, we're not making any progress with this team, but this is why. And there's only so much you can do as a coach. If the team doesn't want to be coached, how do you actually make any progress, right? So that for me was quite a self-destructive behavior because what we found is that there was quite a big churn in that team as well, where you had certain individuals who were the power play makers, and then the people on the outskirts, they would only last a few weeks or a couple of months in that team before they asked to be taken out of the team because they couldn't work with the people.
They were smoked out.
Exactly. So that's one of the worst teams I've witnessed in terms of self-destruction. It's like they were never really making any progress. And although they had the idea themselves that they were delivering, if you spoke to the stakeholders or anybody else or outside the team, they could obviously see there was definite problems in that team.
And as Scrum Masters, as we start looking at this particular story, so I can only imagine how it was, right? Like some people would not show up and the others that showed up were considered outliers and pushed out of the team because they were not towing the line. as it were. And you said something that I think is very important for us as Scrum Masters to explore. You said, if a team does not want to be coached, how do you make any progress? Now, of course, that's just one story, and obviously we're going to meet many teams in our careers. So, Kevin, based on your experience, and as you look back at this story, what can we do differently when we get to a point, like you did at that time, where we're asked to go in and help a team, but the team doesn't want to be helped? What would you do differently these days, Kevin?
So I don't know. It's the short answer to that question. So I think if you can find some small wins and make some kind of progress, then maybe you can start winning the team over. If you go in there and advertise, hey, we're going to change everything, you're now going to be agile, it's going to be great, then some teams will just not buy into that, right? But if you can go in and start small, find the small win. How about we just meet in the mornings for stand-ups? Don't even call it a stand-up, right? How about we just check in with each other in the mornings, first thing when we get in, just see how we're doing with each other. Then you've introduced the concept of stand-ups. And if you can make some small wins like that, then at least you're making some kind of progress. It's my personal belief that there's two things I need in order to interact with a team. The first is I need to be seeing some kind of progress on a regular basis. And the other is I need support, either from leadership or from somebody who has influence. If I don't have those two things, then I feel it's my time to step away, because you're actually setting yourself up for failure.
I think those are two important heuristics here, right? Like seeing some kind of progress and needing the support. I'm reminded of the movie, an American movie called Good Will Hunting. I remember the whole evolution of the relationship between the main character, Will Hunting, and the Robin Williams, who's the psychologist, and how there's this standoff, like this silent standoff, eventually even getting physical in that particular story, but this silent standoff. And for me as a Scrum Master, that serves kind of as a template. You're there, you're showing you're present, but you're not supposed to go and tell them what to do. Mm. And this is very important for Scrum Masters, because we can only help as much as people want our help. We are not people's managers, usually. Sometimes that also happens, but we usually are not the manager of the team. We don't have the luxury of telling them what to do. And also we know that even if we would have the luxury of telling them what to do, it would be counterproductive, because it would not come from them. It would not come from the team. So one of the things that, like kind of a tip or a heuristic that I very often use, is to just in the beginning, just ask questions and only work on problems they consider important, right? Not the things I see this and that and so on that we need to change. No, not that, but actually just starting from the perspective of helping and answering questions if they have, or asking questions to help them decide which problems they want to tackle. How do you do it, Kevin?
Yes, exactly that. So what you want to try and do is win them over first by making sure that they realize that you're not sent by management to disrupt and change everything drastically, but you're there to actually help them. And again, if they think they're so brilliant that they don't need help, then that can still quite be tricky. But there's always something, if you dig a little bit, if you scratch the surface, you can always find something that they say, you know what would actually be really nice, as if product owner did their job properly or something like that. So then maybe you can start having a conversation around that, rather than trying to change anything with the team, but maybe something in the environment around the team that makes them feel that you are actually there to help them instead of change the way they work, as it were.
That's a great reminder for us Scrum Masters. We're not there to dictate what to do. We're there to help people. And of course, for that, they need to want to be helped first.
Yes.
Thank you for sharing that story, Kevin.
Pleasure.
Tuesday is Team Day here on the Scrum Master Toolbox podcast. But tomorrow we talk about something that goes beyond the work we do with the teams. We will talk about how to lead change and what our guests have learned from leading and participating in change programs during their career. See you tomorrow. We really hope you liked our show. And if you did, why not rate this podcast on Stitcher or iTunes? Share this podcast and let other Scrum Masters know about this valuable resource for their work. Remember that sharing is caring.